Hi, everyone. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Today, we have our awesome client, Sophie. She actually just graduated a few weeks ago from the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss program. Welcome, Sophie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, really, really grateful when our clients are willing to come on and share their stories. Because to be honest, it's not always the easiest thing to do, right? It's like the shame kind of cycle or spiral or being in a vicious circle with food, body, and weight is, not something that people like to share, especially when all my clients are doing well in life and, have amazing husbands like Sophie does maybe, or, or very smart human beings that are like already very self-aware, already have the background with, your husband with neurology, right? And the different like scientific things, and it's just the reality, right? As you know, Sophie, that, sometimes we get to a point where it's just like knowing makes no difference anymore. It's like we can know all the things, but to actually have ourselves not be acting crazy sometimes around food, body, and weight stuff, it's a totally different ball game. And yeah, no shame in asking for help. So I just really want to acknowledge the part of you that is brave enough to come and share your story and know that it's helping a lot of people for probably many years to come. So thank you again for being here. So I think we'll just start out, before you started the program, maybe you can, if you want to say, who you are, where you're from, what you do, that's cool. If not, that's fine. But, and where you were at before you found Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, that would be great.
Sure. My name's Sophie. I live in the greater Atlanta area, and I work with machines. And before I found Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, I had struggled for years and years and years with an unhealthy relationship with food. I definitely was one of those people that believed there was good food and there was bad food. And it was very ingrained in me because I grew up eating extremely healthy in the home, but always really enjoyed eating fast food and things that I had put in a category of naughty and bad. So whenever I was craving those things, it made me feel like I was doing something wrong by thinking about those foods or indulging in those foods. Mm. And for years, I've loved listening to podcasts. And one day something got in me and I thought, I wonder what weight loss podcasts are out there. So I looked on my little, Apple showing me all the different weight loss podcasts, and I found Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. So I probably, like a lot of people, I would assume, that found you, I was listening to the podcast first, and everything was clicking and making sense. And I knew that I was learning a lot just from the podcast. So I was tempted to see what the program was, and I joined the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never forget our initial conversation. Definitely not. And I'm so glad that you did. That's awesome. Perfect. Yeah. And so, you said you were struggling with that stuff for a long time. And you guys were, you and I were talking about the pattern that you had and all of that before we started. So do you mind sharing what that cycle looked like for you?
Yeah. Probably mostly it was emotional stress. It could be happy, it could be sad, it could be anything. And I would have to pass fast food restaurants on my way to and from work and on my way to and from visiting family every day. And I would be tempted and would literally, my tongue would start tingling, not unlike descriptions of people that are craving drugs or alcohol. My tongue would start tingling and I would have this just overwhelming desire that I had to have it. I absolutely had to have it. And if I try and fight the desire, sometimes I could be a little bit successful, maybe for a day, but at least 4 or 5 days a week, I would give in and I would do what I call binge, which would be eat a good sized meal hide all the wrappers so that it didn't really exist. And while I was eating, I was literally having a dialogue of anger with myself, mixed with, oh, this food tastes good, mixed with just a real negative dialogue of being mad at myself, but giving in. And it was just a vicious cycle. And I would always feel bad about it. I would hide the wrappers. And I think that feeling bad about it and shaming myself about it created just this extreme negative self-talk that was painful to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yep. And I, as you were describing that so well, I was just kind of brought back to one that was like that, for me. And makes me feel a little emotional, actually, just because like, I know that, I know the like, like the gripping the steering wheel or like the whatever of being like, don't do it, like, don't do it, like we can, all the things. And then, and then there's the right hand turn or whatever off the street. And like, there we are. And it's almost like that exhilaration of like, right, like, okay, I'm doing it. But then you're like, what the hell are you doing at the same time? Right. And then it's like and then it's like you make your huge order or whatever. And it is, right. It's that simultaneous, like I was just talking to someone right before this call who's interested in joining the program. And he was saying, I was like, what's it like for you when you actually, his thing was like a whole box of donuts or a whole pint of ice cream. And I was like, what's it like for you when you're eating it? And his first response was, yum. He's like, it's like, yum. He's like, but there's always this background of, what are you doing? I can't believe you did that. Right. Like you're doing it again. And then exactly what you're saying, Sophie, of that, I had a coach once who said that shame, she believes, is one of the biggest killers on the planet. And I happen to agree, because it's like when we, are making ourselves wrong, or we have this like critical, voice that oftentimes isn't even ours, right? It's like comes from our parents or grandparents or, right? Then it ends up being that we start acting kind of like addict like behavior of like hide the wrappers, like all the stuff, and then it feeds this extra dialogue of like, I am an addict. There is something wrong with me. Like I am messed up. And it's just like you said, this like horrible, vicious cycle. And yeah, so I just appreciate you painting that so well for people, including myself, because it's painful. It's really, really hard. I got that. So then fast forward. So when you got into the program, what were some of your biggest like learnings or takeaways, or what made the biggest difference for you, and where are you today?
Well, and I'm also going to bump back for just a minute.
Yeah.
Like you said, shame, the stress that it causes. People talk about, especially in the medical profession, about how stress is such a big killer. And I think a lot of us think of stress as being someone that is running a huge company and has a huge family and a million responsibilities. But I think there's a certain forms of stress that we put on ourselves that has nothing to do with immediate external stimuli. It's just us feeding it to ourselves. Mm-hmm. But when I found the program, I set up to discuss it, and we discussed it, and immediately I wanted in. And I knew that there was probably 100 different ways of maybe working on me. But I knew I had tried different things, many different eating programs. And that had nothing to do with my issue. Mm-hmm. I'm smart enough to know probably what a decent sized plate looks like, or a decent amount of calories per day, or what we should limit, because, if you only eat this, it's not good for your health. But I needed this program. Mm. And I also felt in my heart that I needed something that did cost money. I needed something where I could say, you know, I'm going to invest in myself. I know that this may not be this, you know, this may be a little more than, you know, that I might have paid on a different program. But what am I getting? I need to work on me. I need to have people that I can call if I need a sounding board or to work me through it. But for me personally, you guys offer to talk to someone, to set up an appointment. There's the online portal when you join the program. I always loved knowing that was there. But I think for me, the weekly groups, I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays, were just profound beyond belief. I loved them, loved them. And I learned more than I ever could have imagined through all the ways to deal with what you're going through at the moment. So many ways.
I think it's so important. Yeah. What you're sharing. And yeah, the group calls of just like what I often hear from people is, you know, just knowing that I'm not alone in what it is that I'm dealing with. Was that your experience as well?
Absolutely. Every single person, even if their situation was different from mine, it gave me empathy towards what they're feeling, and in turn surrounded me back with empathy for what I was going through. And that allowed me, well, not to mention some of the inner child reparenting and some of the tricks that I probably shouldn't call them tricks, but some of the methods of kind of getting in touch with what is driving us to do these behaviors that aren't comfortable, that we want to change.
Yeah, really good. 100%. Yeah. And yeah, also the part about investing in yourself, you know, I think there's definitely something to that. You know, I remember having that part of the conversation with you too, because I had just enrolled someone prior to you signing up, and she was saying, you know, I'm going to do this. And she was like, and the reason why is because if my child needed this as much as I know that I do, I would pay for it in a heartbeat. And she was like, and it feels scary for me to pay for this for myself, but I want to take care of myself as well, as much as I would my child for the first time in my life. And, you know, every single human being that comes into this program is very caring, right? Human being, and they put others before themselves. And I think there's just such a major dynamic that happens every time that I invest in myself. It's just like, it can't help but to happen, right? There's like something that like, right, it's like the elevated state that I get into requires me to, you know, be a higher version of myself that wouldn't otherwise be there unless I did that. You know, if I pay $100 for a program, I'm probably not even going to do it at all. Like, it's just right. So, yeah, I just think it's important that, yeah, people hear the power of the self-investment as well as being a huge part of it. You know, when we pay money, we pay attention, right? And then we elevate ourselves as a result. Yeah. So way to go for getting past that for yourself and doing that too. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So the group calls were huge for you. And, you know, the way to change the unconscious mind is through repetition and emotion. You know, and back in the day, when I just was starting out doing hypnosis, I just worked with people for maybe 4 sessions of hypnosis, the way like a regular hypnotherapist would work. And they, you know, were super happy at the time. Like, I got total freedom from food, you know, all this. And then I checked back in like maybe 6 months or a year later, and they were like, it works really well during the time, but now I'm like back on Weight Watchers or something. And I was like, I'm not okay with that, you know? And so then my work continued, you know, for years and years to finally get that there's way more than just the hypnosis piece. It's like the group aspect of the healing, of realizing I'm not alone in this experience. Right. There's the individualized support one-on-one, so that you can talk to someone at any time that you're stuck or really need help, you know, working through something. The emotional mastery tools. It's like, if we never learn as human beings to actually be with our feelings. Yeah. What makes you laugh?
We should have learned all this in elementary school.
Right. Oh my
we should have been taught so much of the stuff. If we had been taught as kids, yeah, on a more of a kid level, geez, how wonderful would we be?
Oh my goodness, 100%. We have a client in the mastermind program who she brings her son to every call, and she's like, giving these tools to him, and like he knows how to feel his feelings, and he knows like she's becoming a better mother because of it, and making sure she's not passing down those, unconscious things about food, body, and weight to her son. And we see that happen a lot as well, because we will, even if I have a lot of moms that come on and they're like, well, I don't talk to my kids about my weight stuff at all. But it's like, do you think are they still having signs of it? And they're like, yeah, they're struggling with it. And I'm like, okay, like they unconsciously still pick that up. They know when you're not like free and clear around food, they can feel it. And so, yeah, the impact, the ripple effect is major. Awesome. Perfect. So then, yeah, you dove in, you got the support that you needed. Right. And then what happened? So where are you today? What were your results?
Well, I lost 15 and a half pounds now. And that was pretty much all of it during those 8 weeks. As soon as I got started with you guys, because I invested in it, number one, but truthfully, the tools that I learned with it, listening to, for me, and I know from group, every single person that participates in this has their different favorites. But for me, I was able to learn new dialogue to talk to myself when I was going through wanting to crave. And I was listening to my hypnosis every single night, the one with the balloon, every single night.
Good for you.
And I didn't have my tongue tingle anymore. I did not feel the need to stop. And I thought that when I finally dealt with fast food, it was going to be really uncomfortable. It wasn't. I said, you know what? I'm going to have this specific meal, this little burger and the small fry. I'm going to have this as my dinner, and I'm going to go sit in the parking lot and eat it. But then I'm going to bring my wrappers in my house to throw away and tell my husband, oh, I've had a, there was nothing uncomfortable. It was just food. And I learned through your program, you all look at food as being neutral. There is no such thing as bad or good. Well, I had been hypnotized my whole life into thinking there was bad and there was good, and that somehow your worth as a person, if you're making, let's just say, eating trash food, as I once looked at it, if you're eating junk food, you're being a trashy person, because only a trashy person would feed themselves such bad food. And there was so much more to it than I thought. So when I was sitting there calmly eating my little burger and fry and enjoying every bite, which you at some points talk about, the person that enjoys a hot chocolate and really just enjoys it, and there's no negativity. It's almost a ritual just to appreciate what you're eating. I enjoyed my burger and my fry and thought, there's nothing wrong with this. Why have I been hypnotizing myself for years into buying into the dialogue that this was evil and naughty? And I would just, the self-hatred I would give myself while I was eating it, just absolute self-hatred of what a bad person, and I don't deserve to lose weight. It was almost self-harm,
Yeah.
And it was weird. At first, it was weird that you understood. And then I found out from the group that there was other people that kind of felt the exact same way I did. But mine was just, this food is evil and bad. When you're having a bad day, you consume it and you self-hate, but secretly enjoy the flavor and be miserable that night. I would also binge and possibly go somewhere else and get some donuts. Then I would have abdominal discomfort, wake up at night with upset stomach, have to use the restroom. and feel bad the next day, and then repeat it 4 or 5 days a week. Where's the joy in that life? It's gone. I don't have to deal with that anymore. And you said something so profound that stays with me every day. You said, you don't take a shower once and you're clean forever. You still have to wash up every day. You can't just shower once and it's over. So every day I listen to my hypnosis, and I've incorporated it for me, whether it's food that's going in it, or whether it's emotions or anything I don't want. I take care of it with my hypnosis every night.
Oh, it's amazing. Good for you. Honestly, it's really, really awesome. Yeah. And you were saying it's like a form of self-harm. It's like, you're like, it really is self-harm. It really is, and it's like we get into this toxic relationship with ourselves. Like, it's really bad, and and it's not our faults either. It's just like, we get so tied up with society and all those, like we said, we've been brainwashed or hypnotized our whole life to believe that these foods are bad and wrong and evil. And, then it's like that emotion around that food is what makes it so, like, I can't control myself because it's so bad and wrong. It's like that, right? It's just like, so as soon as you do exactly what Sophie just said, right? I'm just like, let's just enjoy this, without shame. And like, let's actually own the fact that I like fast food once in a while, or maybe a couple days a week. Yeah. Like, I like it. I went to took myself to Taco Bell on my birthday a couple weeks ago, and I just loved it. I was like, this is amazing. Right. I also feel inspired to share. I never watched the Kardashian show before, but I watched an episode last night. Right. And it's just like, they're, when they go out to eat, they're like, I'll have the onion rings, I'll have the burger, like I'll have the chicken. And they're just like, like, I love this. And the one girl ordered a soda, and the other one was like, did that come from the fountain? Right. And she was like, oh, it actually came from a bottle. She's like, oh, okay, never mind. She's like, I love a good fountain soda. And like, I do too, like, it's amazing. So
at the movies,
and so we have this thing of like, oh, we're this horrible, shameful, but even like, I mean, if you consider like high vibe, right, of just like whatever human beings, whatever you think about them or not, but it's just like every empowered woman that I've ever met, like, just has nothing in the space about food. It's just like, that looks amazing. Like, I love this, and it's just like, and we just have it in our mind, based on our past, right? Of like, no, like that can't be correlated with high vibe or whatever. But in reality, if you have peace around these things, and these foods and yourself, and right, because you don't have shame around it, then you do have balance, right? Like, I think it was Kim on the show. She was just like, 98% of the time I'm vegan, but there's always that 2%. That's what she said. So, right. And she like had some chicken wings or whatever. And she like loved them, but there, you could tell that she wasn't, because, obviously this being my vocation, I'm like looking as they're eating it, like, is there something in the space for them? And she like easily could put her plate down and like hang out with her kid at the same time. Like, I know when someone's not at peace around food, and it's like, if they're like having a cheat day, right? And anyone who's listening, like, listen for yourself in this, of like, you're kind of like vacuum cleanering the food in, like, you can't really pay attention to anything else. It's kind of like, as unromantic as it is, you have a dog or something, and it's like, you can tell there's some dogs that like, they'll bark at you, right? If you like come too close at them when they're eating or something like that, or they'll be like very protective, or they'll hound it down. It's just like, we're in that space in our brains of scarcity, and of fear around food, and our behaviors, like, we're kind of barking at people in the background sometimes without us knowing it. I see it all the time, and I used to be that, so, yeah, just waving the flag of like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can be completely sane around food, even if you haven't your entire life in 8 weeks. Yeah.
How would you look at a person who chooses to withhold things they like from themselves? That, I don't want to withhold what I like. I mean,
that's so true.
Food's a huge enjoyment in life.
it's a huge enjoyment in life. Yeah. It's like, why are you depriving yourself of something that could bring so much joy? Now, with that said, it's totally different if someone's like, oh, thank you, I'm all set with that cookie, because they're choosing to like not have that cookie. Like they may enjoy it, but they're enjoying what they're creating more by saying no. Like that's also like awesome, like there's nothing in the space weird around that, but if it's something that it's like, I really want that, then it's like, come on, have some. But it's
Yeah.
scary. Before you do this work, it's too terrifying to just have it, because then it's like, I'm out of control, downward spiral, negative self-talk, right? Having my stomach hurts, bathroom runs, like, so it's terrifying, and that's why we're here, to just make that transition, that bridge over into getting past the like terrible, hands gripping the steering wheel, to like where you are today of like, I got this, like it's always like you said, you're taking your shower every day. But you're past the acute phase, which is so great to see. I'm very happy for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't get over, it's not like all fun and games every day.
No.
I do have to consider during my day. I do have to make choices. And that's another tool that we learned with the program, is I have to say, well, yeah, that cookie looks great. Am I hungry? Or do I really just want it? Or, maybe I could take it home. Maybe I'll want it more later. I also do consider, what have I consumed today? We got to be realistic here. Mm-hmm. We have to be realistic enough to say, well, we don't want to overindulge in everything every day. Mm-hmm. That would never lend us to weight loss. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're really craving something like you've talked about, and like we learned, if we're really craving something, ask a couple questions of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. 100%.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And just increasing the awareness, because sometimes it's just that automatic, we get stressed out, we have a hard meeting, we have a hard day, and then it's just like our hand is in a chip bag, or like we're hounding down cookies. It's like the energy behind, the eating is the major part that we just want to support people, and like getting the crazy energy out. And then once they feel empowered to, take back control over the way that they're feeling when it's like that, then anything's possible. Then it's easier to make those decisions, and it's not so scary, in my experience. And it sounds like yours as well. Yay, Sophie, congratulations. Perfect. So for anyone out there who's listening and can relate to your story, or they're, whoever they are, what advice would you give them, or last thoughts for them?
Well, I would also say, probably for the last thoughts were, if you are enjoying the podcast as I did, or however else you found the Facebook group or whatever, if you're not sure that this program would be a good fit for you, I really appreciated that Leslie had me actually, and I believe she does with everyone, she gives you a little homework to do first. Mm-hmm. And depending on how you feel about that homework and the way you answer some questions, she gives you an idea if you would be a good fit, which also made me feel good that if my thought process or whatever, if she would have said, I don't think this would be a good fit for you due to the way you look at this or the way you look at that. So if you're curious to see if the program would work for you, then set up a call with her or the team, any of them. They're all awesome, to find out if this would be something that would work for you. And they'll weed you out if it's not. And I could tell from some of the questions, I do know people that adamantly believe nothing I ever do will ever work. Well, that kind of shows you're not open. So that probably is somebody you might not choose. But if you believe that, there are ways of learning new things and you're willing to learn, it sounds like, Leslie, you and the group, if someone's open, there's a good possibility they are a good fit for it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. And I think what you're saying is so important. I had a friend once who she was like, I think I'm going to hire that business coach for myself in 6 months. And I was like, why not just like reach out and have the conversation and get it started to even see if that is going to be something that resonates with you, And she was like, you're right. And then she ended up starting working with her right away, because it's like, we as human beings, we put everything off, like someday, one day. It's like, we may not have tomorrow. If you have this need now, like, what's the worst that can happen? Just take some action towards. And either way, whether you join the program or not, like, people walk away and they have their whole food. And you can attest to this, Sophie, if you agree, like, we get it for you. Like, this is exactly what's happening for you. And here's exactly how we can help you with that. And even if they don't say yes for one reason or another to the program, they still have the awareness from the call of being like, yep, that's what's happening for me.
Absolutely.
Thank God someone solved this problem. Now,
Absolutely.
at least I don't have to keep trying to figure it out, and you get some clarity. So I've never had someone share that before, but I think that's so empowering for people to just get that, it's like, some action is better than no action at all. So, great. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophie. Congratulations on all your success. We appreciate your time and sharing your story. And
I want you on the Facebook group, and I appreciate you guys so much. And anybody who's wondering, she's right. Just make an appointment, discuss it, find out if it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. No harm, no foul.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Great. And for anyone who's listening, if you're ready to make a change, listen to the prompt at the end of this, and yeah, we'll start you in the process and see what we can do to support your path. Thanks so much.
Thank you.